Hi, Mike and Arlen, our Philippine journey. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's talk about China's incredibly aggressive, physical, and absolutely astounding invasion of the South China Sea, the countries around it, how it impacts you, and does it impact you? Well, you bet it does. So let's talk about it.
I never got it, why'd you have to go? I guess this world's too slow for you. I think there's beauty in the gray, the cold, but you just want the gold. And there's no way I can beat it, cause I got no chance, no chance when it comes to her. She got the glitter and the fame, and I just wasn't enough.
So, you know what? This isn't about just the Philippines. You need to recognize that what China is doing in the South China Sea, the West Philippine Sea, all throughout the Asian seascape, okay? This has huge implications not only to the Philippines, where we live, but also throughout the world. Financial implications, implications that will affect you, and it could make it much, much more difficult for you. In order to do this, we had to split this video into a series of videos because you have to understand some different things before you can see China's absolute strategy. You've got to understand some history, just a little bit of history. For those of you that aren't big history folks, I can understand it, but you got to understand it. You've got to be aware of it. The second thing that you've got to understand is the difference between and the legal difference between territorial water and a country's exclusive economic zone. All right? That's important. And then the third thing that you have to understand is in that geography, in what we're talking about, the difference between the Parcel Islands, the Spratly Islands, and China's domination and bullying over multiple other countries. So we'll start out with just understanding the issue of the beginning. How did this all get started? And please keep in mind, number one, a couple of different things. First off, please do subscribe. Please do hit the thumbs up. And because this is being split into multiple videos, there's so much information. I can't help it. But because of that, please do hit the notify bell so that you'll be alerted when one of our videos comes out with additional information. I suspect that we'll take some time to get it all out, but I also suspect that many of you will want to look at this because the mainstream media in the West is not covering this very well or in depth. And you can list as many ideas as to why as you want. So let's start at the beginning, the very beginning. World War II. Horrible incident, it's just horrible. At the end of World War II, all right, China and Vietnam have outposts and troops and actually encampments, fishing encampments in the Parcel Islands. So let's take a look at the Parcel Islands here. All right. Actually, before we look at the Parcel Islands, this is a map of Asia. All right. And so you see the Philippines, you see Vietnam, Thailand, Japan, South Korea. Well, in that South China Sea exists the Parcel Island. And to understand the Parcel Islands, you have to recognize Hainan, which, if I'm not pronouncing it correctly, I apologize. All right. But you see China, and then you see this larger island, Hainan, and in Hainan, out from Hainan, you have the Parcel Islands. Okay? Now, you notice also it's off the coast of Vietnam as well. Well, how far away is it? This plays a very important role. Okay, so it's 306 kilometers from Hainan, which is Chinese territory, into the Parcel Islands' closest point to Vietnam. Both Vietnam at the end of World War II claimed the Parcel Islands. All right, so you've got 306 kilometers, which is, let's see here, 190 miles and some odd. Okay, all right, great. At the same time, off the coast of Vietnam, 305 kilometers away, which is 189 miles, is the closest point between Vietnam and the Parcel Islands. All right, good enough. So in 1946, it gets kind of hot and heavy. People are trying to expand, but this is the beginning of China's expansion. And whether it was planned initially that way or not, it's hard to decide or determine, but it is what happened. So they start building up their outposts on the Parcel Islands. Okay? Now, when they do this, a couple of things happen. For 30 years, they deal with building up outposts. Now, they're not doing reclamation, big difference, until later. They're building up outposts. They're have bad neighbors in the Parcel Islands with the Vietnamese. Well, this comes to a head in 1974. So in 1974, you have the Battle of the Parcel Islands, Vietnam against China. And China kicks their ass, knocks them out, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Now Vietnam claims all of the Parcel Islands. And during that time, they continue to run with their strategy. Okay, great. Whatever. Now you need to understand that later on there will become UNCLOS, UNCLOS, all right? The United Nations. You know what? I'll put it down below. All right, I'll spell it out when it goes. These are 163 countries that sign on to that. And that has a lot to do with what's going on. In UNCLOS, it simply says you have territorial water, all right, and you have your exclusive economic zone. Now, territorial water extends from 12 miles from the low tide out. So low tide, where the water meets the sand, your mainland, your baseline, you go 12 miles. There's a total of 200 miles of EEZ, all right? The economic, exclusive economic zone. That goes 200 miles out. Now, there's a big difference. In the territorial waters, the country has complete dominion over navigation, over access, over whatever's above the water, in the water, on the water, and below the water. Once it comes to the EEZ, all right, a country has no rights to anything above the water. Airspace, totally free internationally. Nobody can lay claim to it. In the water, though, everything below the water, in the water, the ground under it, the minerals under that, that's all part of that country's EEZ. So, as the years go on, China starts to understand, whoa, wait a minute, we've got to get something going here. There's valuable resources and where's food. We've got a huge growing population. We need to do this. All right. And so they do. And actually, here's what really happened. They start reclamation. Now, reclamation, here's what they really started in layman's terms. They scraped the fucking ocean bare around them. All right. They grabbed all of the sand, all of the gravel, and whatever they could import as well. And they're building bases, they're building everything. It's a highly fortified area now at this point in time. Now, was it originally their intention? No, don't care, could give a shit. All right. Chinese people are very nice, so I don't know that many. Chinese government, as I've often said, it's like getting sodomized. All right. Doing business with the Chinese government is like being anally intruded. And that's just a simple fact. Now, what did happen, though, is really what's more important. What's more important is the Chinese learned how to build artificial islands. And this is where the problem gets worse. Now, as I said, we're going to go through this step by step. We're going to keep these videos short so that I know it doesn't get too boring for you. So we're going to stop here, all right? And then we'll make another video that goes on to the Spratly Islands, the military buildup, the EEZ and territorial waters of the countries involved, and the arguments, and the 2016 Hague Convention Tribunal that awarded rights in specific areas, not to the Chinese, of which they said, fuck off. All of that. Hey, look, please do subscribe. Please do hit the thumbs up. We want the rest of the world to be able to begin publicizing what the Chinese are doing. They're invading. All right. And then finally, we want you to understand its global implications and how it's going to impact your wallet, whether you're in the Philippines or somewhere else. With all of that being said, we hope you have a great day. Take care.